Welcome back in, Occupy Democrats. Donald Trump continues to live in fantasy land when it comes to foreign policy and global threats. Because there was a phrase back in the day called axis of evil that was created by W. Bush, and yet in today's world, China, Russia, North Korea are the three foes that the United States of America, and quite frankly the rest of the world, in this breaking story need to pay attention to. But Trump continues to believe that he's just got them all under his thumb and it's all good and taken care of, except what you'll see in this breaking story, maybe not so much. And while he just had a wasted summit with Putin and a ridiculous arguments with Zelensky, take a quick listen to what Trump said about President Xi. This.
Are you concerned of escalation beyond the trade war with China?
No, I'm not concerned. I think President Xi is a very smart guy, and I think we'll end up making a very good deal for both.
And then, of course, what he believes about Vladimir Putin, despite all evidence against. This.
President Donald Trump says he's the only person in the world who can end the war in Ukraine. In a recent interview, President Trump said there's nobody who can stop Russian President Vladimir Putin except him. Commander-in-Chief added he's had some very rational discussions with Putin to halt the bloodshed. Now, these comments come just hours after his special envoy Steve Witkoff described Putin as a great leader and not, quote-unquote, a bad guy.
And in this breaking story, of all the people, his goodest, bestest buddy, Kim Jong-un over in North Korea, remember when Trump posited this about him?
But we have a very good relationship. We were going to war with North Korea. That was what was going to happen. When I did it, and I was really being tough, and so was he, and we would go back and forth, and then we fell in love. He wrote me beautiful letters, and they're great letters. We fell in love.
Oh yeah, they fell in love. You bet they did, except for the fact, whoopsie poop, Putin, Xi, and Kim Jong-un all together. And what did his lover bestie Un actually say to Vladimir Putin? Check out this unbelievable, holy smokes, you better be paying attention breaking story to what North Korea just did in aligning with Putin against everyone. This.
Kim Jong-un promises to do everything to assist Moscow after Putin meeting. North Korean leader invited to visit Russia as Zelensky says Putin is displaying impunity with new Ukraine strikes. Vladimir Putin has invited Kim Jong-un to visit Russia during a lengthy meeting in Beijing on the sidelines of China's biggest military parade, as Kim promised to do everything I can to assist Moscow. The invitation, made through interpreters and shown in a video published by the Kremlin, came as Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, accused Putin of demonstrating his impunity with fresh strikes on Ukraine overnight. Putin and Kim, the authoritarian leaders of Russia and North Korea, were in the Chinese capital as guests of Xi Jinping for a ceremony marking the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War, known in China as the War of Resistance against Japanese aggression. North Korea has supported Russia in its war against Ukraine with weapons and troops. The two leaders appeared alongside Xi at the opening of Wednesday's ceremony, talking as they walked side by side on the red carpet into Tiananmen Square. It is believed to be the first time the three leaders have been in the same place together. In a bilateral meeting that lasted more than 2 hours, Kim was recorded telling Putin, "See you soon," and hugging him goodbye. "We are waiting for you. Come visit us," Putin replied. Russia and North Korea last year signed an agreement that mutually obliges them to provide military and other assistance in the event the other is attacked. Putin thanked North Korea for sending troops to fight against Ukraine, describing them as fighting courageously and heroically in the Kursk region. Putin's visit to Beijing, which followed the Shanghai Cooperation Summit in Tianjin on Sunday and a bilateral meeting with Xi, came as Russia launched a sweeping overnight attack on Ukraine. An estimated 500 drones and 24 missiles were fired at western and central Ukraine, targeting civilian infrastructure, especially energy facilities. Ukraine said at least 4 railway workers were injured. The attack also prompted Poland to scramble defense aircraft. On Wednesday, Zelensky said Putin was showing his impunity, urging tougher sanctions on Moscow. This undoubtedly requires a response from the world. It is only due to the lack of sufficient pressure, primarily on Russia's war economy, that this aggression continues, Zelensky said ahead of meetings with officials from Baltic and Nordic countries in Denmark. Zelensky has accepted Donald Trump's proposals for a ceasefire and face-to-face peace talks with Putin, but the Kremlin has raised objections. At the Tianjin summit, Putin said he had reached understandings with Trump at their meeting in Alaska last month, which he said he hoped were moving in this direction, opening the way to peace in Ukraine. Putin is wanted by the International Criminal Court over alleged war crimes in Ukraine, and there are calls by some international law experts for an arrest warrant to be issued against Kim for aiding Russia's war. There has been no announcement of a formal trilateral meeting between Kim, Putin, and Xi in Beijing. While Xi and Putin have declared a limitless partnership, analysts say Beijing is rankled by Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine and North Korea's direct support of it. Xi is striving to balance his alliance with both nations, while at the same time avoiding further sanctions from the U.S. and other allies of Ukraine.
Now, if I were to use a bunch of sports metaphors or anything else, the bottom line is Donald Trump would literally not even be on the field in a game with these three. Aside from the fact that China owns so much of the U.S. already, along with multiple countries, including Russia, that are indebted to them financially, the reality is these three don't really care what Donald Trump thinks or what he says. They're not concerned remotely. How much of a slap in the face is it to the U.S. and the rest of the world that right after the U.S. gets together with Russia and has a summit in which nothing comes from it, and Putin continues to just hammer and pound Ukraine militarily, that Kim Jong-un comes out and says, hey man, I'm here for you, bruh, whatever you need. That's how much Donald Trump is losing on a global scale to these three. And I wonder if he's going to be writing any love letters begging Kim Jong-un to praise the U.S. instead of Vladimir Putin. You guys stay frosty.